This is Ishan from Revsportz, and welcome to Beyond the Boundary. We have Vahbiz Bharucha with us here tonight, and she's an inspiration to many youngsters all across the country. She is the captain of the Indian women's rugby team, and we're so delighted to have her on the show. Vahbiz, ma'am, thank you so much for your time. I'm so grateful that you're here.
Thank you, Ishan. Thank you for having me on your podcast, your show. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, I've always wanted to ask you, rugby is an unconventional sport. So, how did you manage finding yourself in it in your initial days?
So I've always been very attracted to sport. I have tried a lot of sports thanks to my schooling. I studied at Sardar Dastoor Hormasdiyar High School in Pune,
Okay.
and the sporting culture over there was very encouraging. So all track and field games, most ball sports, you name it, and I've been in it. Now, incidentally, something happened in December of 2008. I didn't know rugby existed in Pune, and I was going through this entire thought process when I was in my 10th standard that what do I want to do from here? I'd love to continue with sport. Do I have a scope in exploring things outside of school? And back then the whole club culture was very uh, outside school training culture wasn't still as rampant as it is
Okay.
right now.
Okay.
And I just kept going on with these thoughts as I was preparing for my board exams. And that time, I guess you call it manifestation, you call it celestial
Yeah.
magic, I don't know what. And it was in December when the coach of the Pune rugby team, Surut Khare, along with another gentleman, had come to our school to promote the sport.
All right.
Because
Okay.
they were going to all the schools which were good in sports. And my PT sir then, he introduced us to each other, and he's like, you know what, why don't you all exchange numbers? And
Yes.
if rugby kicks off in the school or not is
Yeah.
up to the higher authorities, but you can certainly take athletes from here.
100%.
And I mean, you know how important 10th standard exams are given in our society. So
Yeah.
I had a deal with the principal that time that she lets me play through the rest of the year, and during the prelim exam time until the boards, no sports. And even my sir had told me strictly no being on the ground. So I let Surud Khare sir know about that you know what, this is the scene. And he said, no issues. As soon as you're done with your exams, you can come and join. And that's literally how I explored the game. As I tell a lot of people, I didn't choose rugby. Rugby literally chose me. So
I think we all are extremely glad that it chose you as well, because you're doing a wonderful thing.
Absolutely. So humbling actually, because when I look at, did I actually choose to play? And I'm like, no, the sport just came knocking my door and said, hey, hello, adopting you, like so, that.
In a way, you can say it was meant to be.
Absolutely.
Were there facilities back there to support your journey when you started off? Because it is an unconventional sport, and facilities won't be as much compared to a sport like cricket. So how did you manage that?
Luckily, football is very loved in our country. Since as long as I have known, and the infrastructure required for rugby is the same as that for football.
Yes.
So we've always had grounds, but there's always been an apprehension for contact sports to happen on these fields, because I mean, we know how delicate a game football can be sometimes. And people assume that rugby is so much contact that the grass gets uprooted, and there'll be a lot of loss and a lot of destruction to the ground, which is why there will be a lot of apprehension to give us a ground to play the sport on. And there were terms and conditions that, you would like to have your practice here, so then you need to do it in running shoes because your studs will spoil the ground, and a lot of things like that. Much to our misfortune, our rugby season happens in the rainy season.
All right.
So it wasn't even like we could safeguard the ground in any way. And at the same time, we had to wear our running shoes. So it was not the best.
Yeah.
It was a mess. All right. Obviously, for tournaments and stuff, we would get a decently lawned ground. But for a lot of our practices, we used to go travel to one of our friends' farmhouses at the end of the city, where she had a lawn outside her farmhouse, and her parents were very generous to say, you know what, do your practice there, it doesn't matter. So on a very small patch of land, we used to be about 20 girls, just
Just
training the
training.
contact, getting those steps in place, getting used to our studs. And yeah, those have been the starting days.
Yes, I'm sure that must have just been a priceless moment in your journey. But Vahbiz, how did your journey actually take off? How did you eventually represent Team India? And how did you go on to lead that team?
Uh, I guess I was, like you said in the start of the conversation, it was meant to be.
Yeah.
I just ended up joining the sport at the right place at the right time. I joined in March of 2009. And before that, there had been no announcement or no relevance of
Okay.
a women's rugby tournament in the country. And I joined in March of 2009. And in about end March, Aprilish, they had announced a national women's tournament for the first time ever in
Alright.
India. And it just happened to be that, I played that tournament. The tournament happened.
Kicked
None
off.
of us had any idea that they were going to shortlist women for the first ever Indian women's team. That happened. I made it to the camp. The next thing I know, I'm on the on the team, and I'm flying to my first ever international tour. So that's
Awesome.
exactly how things just went. It just happened one by one by one by
It was a
one.
gradual process.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
gradual process, and it almost felt like all those years of foundation in school with the sport and all, it's finally paying off. All that manifestation that, I want to play for India, I'd love to play for India. That's the pinnacle of anybody's career within the country, and everything just magically just started. It was like a snowball effect. It just grew. And you ask, how did captaincy happen? It was so the beauty and its simplicity was so beautiful that I remember we were in camp again, and we were staying in the sports facility, and next to the hostel was this hotel. So the whole place was built up for the Commonwealth Youth Games. So the construction was so the hostel was here, and it was a drive away to go to the hotel. Now we needed ice. So the assistant coach back then, he made me sit in his car, and he said, Vahbiz, get the ice box, please. So I got the ice box, put it in his boot. We drove to it is a 1 minute drive. But we drove to the hotel. We went to its back entrance, and I remember it like it happened yesterday. We went to its back entrance, and we gave the ice box to the kitchen fellow. And the guy went away. So the amount of time that it took for him to, bring the ice and come back. And his name is this coach I'm talking about. His name is Sherry.
Okay.
Sherry. So Sherry asks me, he's like, so how are you feeling being on the team? I said, it's always a surprise. It's never assumed that I'm going to make it. He said, okay, good attitude. My car is very effed up with this ice box of yours, and he's very particular about his cars. And he said, okay, now put it back in the ice and put it back. And he took me back to the hostel, and a friend and myself, we were picking up the ice box. And he says, so you're ready, right? And I thought he's asking for the tournament. And I said, I have to be ready there. I have no choice. He said, no, you're ready for captaincy.
Oh, wow.
And my mouth was just like...
You weren't expecting that.
I said, what? He said, yeah, of course, come on. Buck up now. Just be ready for it.
Wow.
And I was as frozen as that ice at that moment. And I was like, Sherry, you don't think you're saying things too fast? And he said, are you mad? Do you not see things around you? It's so obvious. And again, it just
kept happening.
It just went and went and went. And year after year after year, and we're in my 10th year now as I've just completed my 10 years as captain.
I think that's just really commendable. What would you say would be your career highlight, from playing over the last 10 years?
A career highlight? I'd have three milestones. Okay, so the first is obviously where I got selected for the first time, and it felt like all these thoughts and all these positivity that I was putting into my sport has finally paid off. Second was when I had got dropped off from the team. So like what seemed like was an ongoing process forward.
Suddenly
We always
stopped.
think that so what seemed like ongoing process moving forward, what we assume moving forward is always moving upward, but it could also be going down, which was a huge eye opener for me, that you know what, this is sport and sport is brutal.
So true.
And so that was the second one. And then finally was when this earlier last year, I mean, again, it's funny that you're calling me today. It's all, milestone moments. Last year today is when I tore my ACL and my MCL while playing a tournament again in this time of the year. And that was another milestone for me, where to understand acceptance of something and just take it in your stride. And just so these are my three career highlights, I would say, in terms of eye openers. But in terms of game wise, I can't pinpoint on one specific moment per se, if you ask me right now.
That's fine. You mentioned, going through difficulties, and, there are a lot of youngsters who take up sport, who get injured, who are possibly dropped from the team. So what advice would you give them, who are someone who's possibly going through like a really hard time at the moment, facing an injury, like how you yourself did? So what's the thought process at that time, and how do you overcome something like that?
Ishan, the most important thing for me was accepting. To accept that this has happened. And to accept that it's going to take some time. And to believe that time is going to pass. If you're going to stay sulking, you're wasting time. It's normal to sulk. It's normal to regret. It's normal to feel shit. I have cried in my pillow because I felt like, you know what, I failed my team. This is what I felt. But it's normal to feel these things, as long as you know that it's a part of the process. It's okay to feel bad. It's okay to feel shit. But don't let that negativity take you down. Don't let it pull you down. Let it make you ignite that fire to get up and get better, faster for that very purpose.
Do you think it's helped you mentally? Like all these tough moments in your life have actually propelled you further to go on and achieve much more?
For sure. I mean, I would term it as my most difficult year, because it was the biggest year for rugby in a long time, where we had opportunities to go to the Asian Games and to our regional qualifier and the Olympic qualifiers, and everything was just so lined out campaign wise, and it happened in the same year, so it almost felt like it never rains its course. And I just felt like, why the hell did it have to happen this year? I understand that. And when in Feb I got injured, and in last week of August was when the camp had started. So that was 6 months into the injury, and I had to make a choice whether I wanted to be there or I needed to just skip this year completely. And I'm talking about 2023. And the choice was either black or white. And I had to make a choice at that time, and I chose to go to camp, and I chose to go through the entire 3 months campaign that we have. And no regrets that I chose to be there. So it was very, very tough, but at the same time, I knew what my purpose is, and I knew where I needed to be. So all of these factors actually just helped me skim through the entire year. Like I was messaging my back-end team and the physiotherapist and so on. I said, hey guys, it's been 1 year. And physio's like, I can't believe it's been a year. But at the same time,
time flies.
I know it's been
time does fly by.
Flies, and especially when you're, so preoccupied trying to do things and get better and, be meaningful in life. And, just be there.
No, that's
your time just... Yeah, yeah.
So we've spoken about
So
mental
for
health
people
a
who
bit
are,
here.
so
Yeah.
my, to put it in, summarize it for people who are going through an injury, just accept it, know that it will pass, and just be present. Just be present.
Yeah, so true. So we've spoken about mental health here, and we have to talk about a little bit about your physical fitness as well, because I've seen you in person. You're extremely fit, supremely fit actually. So you need to tell everyone.
Likewise, Ishan.
Thank you so much. But you really need to tell everyone what your fitness regime is at the moment, and how do you maintain your fitness over a long period of time? Because 10 years is a long period, and you've stayed fit, over the course of the last 10 years. So how have you done that?
To be very honest, in the start of my career as an India player, the entire feeling and that responsibility about representing the national team was not at its peak.
Yeah.
There was this understanding that I'm in a very responsible situation and a position, but at the same time we had no idea of the gravity of the situation.
Okay.
So we knew that it was very important, but yeah, okay, I'll still have my paratha and I'll still have the cheese sandwich for lunch, and I'll still do these things. And it was I'd say that we were very ignorant. We didn't even bother to actually check out what does a professional athlete eat or behave like when they're at the pinnacle of their performance or their career or they're expected to be at. It was only after the sport started rolling and kicking off, 2014 onwards, where we started realizing more and more women coming into the sport. So as the as the competition increased, our brain started moving that, okay, you know what, you can't just rely on 1 hour in the morning of rugby practice. It has to be much more.
Yeah.
That's when started doing little extra stuff at home. It would have been just an extra minute of plank, extra crunches. Back then
Just
when I was
pushing yourself a bit
18,
more.
19, yeah, just something more. Do your own running, and it started off with just very little things, very deconstructed, very unaware stuff.
Right.
It was much later on when YouTube started getting a lot more accessible and videos online started getting more accessible. That we realized that what, this is a possibility. This is a possibility. We started asking our coaches to help us with their training workouts, which was obviously very conventional, but it was something.
Yeah.
And I'd say those are what our foundations are now built upon. So 10 years ago, I'd say that I was lucky that I was a person that I'd ask questions and I'd ask for my coach to help with the training, and then I'd go to the gym and I'd put my extra hours and stuff. So that's how slowly it built up. And today, minimum I'm training 2 hours daily.
2 hours. Wow. Okay.
2 hours daily in an off season, and on season I train about 5 hours daily.
Nice.
I'd say 6 days a week. Yeah. So I try and because rugby is such a wholesome sport where you need to be fast, you need to be agile, you need to have strength.
Absolutely.
And you need to have the brains, you see, and you need to have the skill. So I try and culminate all of these things into my training some way or the other. And now we have a high performance program happening. So we have a strength and conditioning coach who gives us the training modules catered to our job on field. And you just have to trust the process and follow that.
No,
so
that's so
what
true.
We are at right
That's so true. And I think, your fitness levels really will help in elevating your game. So is it the same fitness that you've tried and, passing on to your team as well? Or are you like leading by example over here? Or is it just understood that we all have to keep fit if we want to give our best performances out there?
It's just understood.
Understood.
Unfortunately, again, our sports mentality has not been very chiseled since the start. Even today, yes, our general sport mentality has gone way ahead of where it was. But there was no, that understanding about this is my job on field and this is what I need to put in for it.
All right.
Whereas now it's slowly starting to get there.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yes. And Vahbiz, you've been a captain, you are a captain. So how do you manage being a captain and a player at the same time? So it's often quite difficult to do two things at once. We've seen that in other sports as well. So how do you manage it personally?
In the start, it was a little challenging, Ishan. I felt that I kept doubting that how would my teammates listen to me?
Yeah.
Why would they listen to me? And I made a lot of mistakes on the way. I tried to be the authoritative one. I tried to be the submissive one. I tried to be the understanding one. And then I began to realize that, being a captain doesn't mean you be anything different. You just have to be yourself in a more exaggerated way.
Okay.
Because the most important thing about captaincy is just being present and being there when everybody else feels like they need to fall back.
Yeah.
So what do they fall back on while playing? Because coach is standing outside. So you just need to be that person who's always there. And how I tried to put that in my practice was just turning up every day. I might feel shit. I might feel bad. I might feel like I don't want to do it today. Like today is one of those days.
Yeah.
But I just got to get in my 2 hours, be there, be present. And what happens is that the mental circuit starts forming, and when it comes to the time when you have to just go on zombie mode, your zombie mode is just being there.
True.
So what happened over this decade is that I was trying too much in the start, and now it's just become second nature where, it happens that people believe what I'm going to say or what I'm going to do because I've proven it in my actions.
Yeah. And actions speak much louder than the words, yeah. So
absolutely.
So in a way, you are leading to the front, right? Yeah. You're being the person that your teammate can possibly rely on, which is extremely helpful.
Yeah. And I can, it's very easy to tell a rookie that, hey, do 12 push-ups. But if they see me doing 14, they might just feel like, oh, this 30-year-old is doing 14 and I'm like 18 and I'm not even able to pull 10. I need to better get my act in place.
Yes, that happens.
So, rather than just telling them to do it and guide them in the way is something that I've learned over the years.
Nice. And Vahbiz, obviously, the team's doing great. You're doing great. There have been setbacks in the past, obviously, that happens in sport in general. But where would you want to take your team and yourself personally, say, in the next 2 to 3 years? Where do you see yourself and the team?
I really want, I think this team has so much potential, so much talent. I really want us to crack that top 5 position in Asia. I really, where right now we're dancing between 9 and 10. And it's a very doable thing. We just need to get that. What I was talking about, the sports mentality.
Yes.
Our sports education is just so important. We just need to every day need to put in that little bit that will get us that one step far, because our international counterparts are working hard. Yes. Whether they're not working hard or they're working hard, nobody cares. But we do know that they're physically more gifted than us in many ways.
True, yeah.
And to just be sure about what we're doing, we need to focus on what we're doing. Forget about, doesn't matter what a Singapore is doing, doesn't matter what a UAE is doing. We don't care where they come from. They can be brought up on the best of nutrition. But we know what we need to do, and we need to just put in, because we're not a rugby playing country.
Yeah,
so we need to put even more effort into things.
And how's the team culture in general for those who don't know? Like, what's the environment like in the team at the moment? How's the bonding?
It's very positive. We over a period of time, obviously a new entrant into the team takes time to settle in with the vibe, but it's generally very positive, very uplifting. There are differences. We obviously have differences as to, I, for example, I do not appreciate people coming waltzing into my room and just like laying on my bed. I don't like it. And the team knows that and they respect that.
Yeah.
And I respect their space. So, little ideologies like that. And, certain people, for instance, when they eat non-veg, they put the bones outside their plate. And
Okay.
it's just about accepting one another's flaws and positives and stuff. But in general, we have a very positive connect in the team.
Awesome. That's
Very.
awesome. And you've also been connected to physiotherapy. So let's talk a little bit about that. How did that happen? I was reading about that. So I would like to know more on your thoughts on physiotherapy and the
So
importance of
I
it.
I always since I hit my teens, I knew that I wanted to do something where I help human beings
Mm-hmm.
just feel better, get better, and I realized again in my course of schooling, when I interact with my friends, I realized that you know what, a lot of my friends would confide in me. I realized that if someone wasn't in physical pain, they'd come to me and be like, "Arey Vahbiz, help now! What to do? I've got this scratch," and I'd inevitably find a solution to their problem.
Okay.
And I realized that you know what, I'd like to do things on this line. I never knew that something like physiotherapy existed. I always knew about psychology and psychotherapy and psychiatry, and that was where my thoughts were inclined. But I also knew that you know I'm not so strong minded a person back then that I could sustain that line.
Mm-hmm.
It was only when we went for our first international tour and my eyes and my vision was exposed to what
Yes.
therapists are and what do they do. And I was so interested with the whole concept that uh, I just I literally pinpointed and I said
Okay.
this is what I want to be in my life.
All right. Okay.
So yes, the physiotherapy
Yeah.
evolved from being I want to be this person on field to I just want to help everybody and anybody that seeks my advice.
Yeah, I mean, no, that's just lovely. And I think, a lot of times a lot of youngsters miss out on having that mentor. So it's really nice that you're taking up the role. And I think a lot of youngsters would possibly benefit from this as well. So thank you so much for that. And I think it's just great.
And also,
Yeah.
I just want to add one thing
Yes.
on that point, which you highlighted very nicely, is that when we started playing,
Mhm.
if we had an ankle niggle or you know a neck pain or something of that sort,
Yes.
we were always advised by our coaches, you know what, do icing or take care of yourselves, you know, do your stretching, you're neglecting your
Yeah.
bodies, you're like young athletes, cool down. We never had somebody who would actually,
Guide you,
if
sit
I
down
can
and
say,
guide you.
pamper us or you know give us that kind of treatment.
Yes.
And for a long time in rugby, there was always a lack of a physiotherapist.
Okay.
So I also felt this responsibility that you know what, let me be that person that provides this, this service to
Too
the
true.
next generation of
Yeah.
athletes.
No, I think
And that's
young players will be so grateful for you as well that you're taking this up and giving back to the sport.
I hope.
My final few questions for you, Vahbiz. So you spoke about the team's aspirations. Your aspirations personally, like, do you have any that you would like to do or complete in the next 5 years?
This is my
Same.
aspiration as
Okay.
well. Yeah, I'd really like for the team to crack in firstly the top eight. So because in rugby, how they've divided it is they put the top eight and the bottom eight.
Yeah.
And we right now are in the podium of the bottom eight. We need to get into the top eight. For that,
Okay.
we need to win the bottom eight. And we've always been having a mental breakdown at the finals for some or the other reason, which has been keeping us from that top eight position. So firstly to break into the top eight and then make it to the top five and be prominently there.
No, I'm sure you will.
I really want to.
I think all of us are hoping that the team does break through and gets into the top five, and I'm sure it will happen. My last question for you, if there's one message that you would like to pass on to a youngster who's taking up sport or just in life in general, I'm sure there must have been a lot of messages and lessons that have come your way. But if there's one, what would you like to give someone?
Work very, very hard and be patient because nothing happens overnight. It all takes time. It's not that you'll attend or you'll be involved in your desired sport for 1 year and don't expect like great results. Sometimes it takes time. There are 100 other people doing the same thing. Just keep working hard, get in your hours, and just be patient.
Okay.
Yeah.
On that
Keep
note,
at it.
on that note, it's been a lovely conversation. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
I truly appreciate it, and I wish you the best.
Thanks. Thanks so much.
Thank you.